Anyway, we have much to ponder in this moment on this Palm Sunday, which has been celebrated by millions all over the world, and it begins a most sacred Holy Week amongst the Judeo-Christian traditions. Passover and Easter Sunday on the way. So the energy is rising high everywhere, and of course what's felt in one place is felt in all places. So it's wonderful to be looking at this thing called, diversity in nature, which is the topic for the month, diversity for us all in our international community. And it's not a word that we're unfamiliar with because it's very popular at the moment. It's a pop culture word just now, and it ought not to be that. This is an ancient realization that we've had since time immemorial, but only now trying to grasp the full import of it. Diversity, variety, basically. So the best word that describes diversity. And if you look at nature, and especially at this time of year, there's no denying there is a variety. There is a variety in nature. Nature is extremely diverse in all of its species, in all of its aspects. And you and I are part of all of that. But you and I, at this stage of growth and development in our lives, can grasp more fully and comprehend more fully the beauty and the grace of what diversity is all about. And coupled with variety, we have to add the word inclusivity. So diversity, variety, inclusivity, you see it in nature. And as I say with nature this morning, as I was sharing, everything is included in nature. Nature is running through, permeating all of creation, and nothing is excluded from it. And it doesn't see anything within it as greater or lesser. It's all life. It's all included. It's all received. And it is all part and parcel of the whole cosmic spiritual realization of life. And we are spiritual beings having a human experience, like it or lump it, know it or not, reject it or not. That's the truth. We are in essence energy, spirit. Our truth resides on the invisible side of life. This only shows up a tiny little bit of us. But we are so much more than the body that we are wearing on this plane right now. So much more than that. And so to understand diversity, that's why it's so good to get out into nature and really be present to it and see it and be mindful of its multitudinous colors and tones and textures, etc., etc., and be awed. How could you not be awed by springtime? I think it must be well nigh impossible. And it's just a feast for the senses, this year. And you and I are very much part and particle of the cycles of life. We cycle just as things in nature cycle. We have our 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The difference with us is we can extend our seasons to any length of time. We can stay in one season for the rest of our lives if we so choose to. And hopefully that's going to be either spring or summer or the beauty and grace of autumn or the joy and the snow of winter, whatever. As long as it's honing in on the beauty and the grace of whatever the season is, we're good. Doesn't matter. But like nature, I wish we could be as so inclusive of all of the life that we perceive around and about us, and not be those people amongst us who think that something is greater than something else, or someone is greater than someone else, or some cultures are better than other cultures, or whatever that infantile mentality comes up with in us all. One life, God life, perfect life, whole life, inclusive life, and that life is my life always and ever. And I have no other life because I am life's expression, in form, in the image and likeness was I formed. Of the substance was I formed of my Creator. Running through all aspects of my being is that power for good in the universe that is greater than any material form, and I use it, and it uses me. How long will it take me to get that in a way that causes me to be able to recognize the unity, the oneness, the harmony, the golden thread in all of life? How long is it going to take me? Mother of goodness, I ask myself that question over and over again. And the answer always is as long as it takes for you to wake up. And so, the awakening is happening in you and in me. It always has been, but you and I have the opportunity to amplify it, to accelerate it now. Because yes, we are in a very acute stage in life and living on planet Earth. We really are. These are times when everybody needs to be the best that they can be, the fullest that they can be, needs to be as awake as they can be, so that we can nurture and nourish the transition from what was into what is coming through. And what is coming through could be something awesomely, amazingly magnificent or not, depending upon that 51% of us. We need to get to 51%, looking on the bright side of life and being one with the understanding and the realization of the unity and inclusivity of life, and stop the nonsense. It's rampant at the moment, but I'll be darned if I will give in to all of those prophets of doom who say we're heading straight for total destruction. No ifs, ands, doubts about it. I will not be afraid when I hear this nonsense, see this nonsense, wherever I hear it or wherever I see it. Because it's not the truth. And I'm awake at least that much enough to know it's not the truth. But the question is, it's not enough for me to know the truth. What am I going to do about what I know is the question. How can I be in service to the advancement of life and living, and to assisting the transition that we're in right now to be the good that promises it can be when we're through it? How can I make the difference? That is the question. This is a wonderful day to be looking at the answer. And the answer is never changing. It's always the same, and it's one little word: love. Love. Sometimes I ask myself, do we know anything about it? I look out into the world and I say, Mother of goodness, do we know anything about this thing called love? And we're not talking about conditional human love. We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about divine love, spiritual love, wherein you and I know the lover and the beloved are one. There's only one life, one dance in life, and the lover and the beloved dances the dance. One dance, one life, one love. Now, of course, we're never going to fully realize totally while we're wearing a body what unconditional love is in its entirety, but we can sure as heaven is and earth is, and both are of the one thing, we can peel back the layers and know more and more about it if we're willing to do the work. If we're willing to do the work, and there's nowhere to do the work except upon ourselves. Gosh. And I mean, that's a burden. That's a burden because it's easy for us to get out there and think we're changing life and living and changing the world by showing up and serving here and serving there and keeping ourselves so busy we won't even look at ourselves, we won't even tune into ourselves, so that we cannot really understand that we carry around with us bias, that we carry around with us prejudice, that we carry around with us things that do not serve us well or life well either. They were imported when we were very tiny. And we have to take a look, we have to pause and take a look at ourselves enough to know what were the biases, what were the prejudices that I picked up from all the adults around and about me when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. What were they? What am I still carrying around me that doesn't belong to me, that I imported from outside, that I don't really call mine? Never have, not consciously, but just went along with the status quo of whatever group, whether it's peers, or it doesn't matter. We're all groupies. One way or another, we're groupies. And we cling, we're Klingons. We cling to what we know. We cling to what we think is the best. We're never going to advance while we're doing that. Life is an adventure, and sometimes that adventure gets very serious. And sometimes that adventure is steep, and sometimes that adventure takes us into experiences unknown before, and scary. Yes, it does. But it's given to you and to me to be adventurers because we're fully equipped to be able to do this and come through this, all the better of it. But it's yours and mine to do, and it's no one else's. And it's an individualized thing, and the world will not be saved, the world will not be changed, the world will not transition into its next phase without each one of us doing that first. And that's the only way it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. You know that by now. You've learned by now they're not going to do it. Whoever the they happens to be, whatever the group is, they're not going to do it. A group can't do it. No one has ever made the difference as a group. It's always started with the power of one person awakening, one person moving ahead, one person catching the consciousness, the power of one. And the movement begins as soon as another person responds to that one person. It's not the one person starts a movement, it's the first responder that starts the movement. And we are the first responders to the true essence of spirit being. And it's up to each one of us to be that one. You are the one. I say it over and over again, and I'm dead serious when I say it. You are the one. I am the one. There's no one else that's going to bring about the change that we all keep rattling on about that is needed. I have to do it. It's like everybody else knows by now. If you have a great good idea and you offer it as a great good idea, you know it's your idea and you're going to be responsible for getting it up and going because it's your idea. You're the one that has the clarity around the idea. You're the one that had the vision for the idea. You're the one that has the passion around the idea, and nobody than you could do it better. Of course you're going to lead it. Of course you are. I just cannot be a sayer of the word. I have to be a doer of the word, as we have been told. I can't sit back in my seat any longer and say, oh, I give up. There's nothing I can do about it. Too many of us do that. They cannot be us. They cannot be us. We need not be in that many. It's crucial times. It's all hands on deck times. It's fasten your seatbelt times. We're in for the ride of our lives, and we're in it. It's not coming, we're in it. We're in it. But where are you in it? Where am I in it all? Am I going to stand on the bleachers looking helpless and hopeless, or am I in there with my sleeves rolled up and say, bring it on, here I am. Let your power, let your presence, let your truth and let your wisdom, let your grace and let your understanding pour itself through me. Here I am. Don't you see all those great heroes when the eyes go white and the power flies out of these eyes and all kinds of things happen as a result of it? Well, you have more power in you than that, I can assure you. But when is it going to be unleashed and freed and sent forth? When is that going to happen for you? When it's going to happen for me? It is not going to happen until I go in to the hero school and learn the tricks of the trade and until I'm willing to get the bumps and the bruises that go along with all of that, so that I can be all that I can be. It's all hands on deck, because I am hearing rhetoric from people that amaze me, that I thought were on a different level than their language would indicate. And it's not a judgment, it's just I'm realizing everyone's in their own experience, and that's each individual one's thing. But I'm seeing this more and more and more, and it's making me more and more and more uncomfortable, and I'm endeavoring to watch myself more carefully again, because if I see it showing up out there, I know I have to look at that within myself and make sure I'm on board with this and I'm not adding to all of it. Because it's easier to say something than to do something. It's easier to say something than to be something. And that's not where we are right now. And you kids, I'm telling you, you got it. You have it. You're loaded with it. You're able for this. You're equal to this. You're here for this. And so, my dear ones, when we're talking about diversity, look at your own diversity and see what's going on within that diversity that you are, because we are each individualized little universes. That's what each one of us is. There's a lot going on in a universe. So first of all, take a look at ourselves and see what's going on there, root out what needs to be rooted out, clear out what needs to be cleared out, unify what needs to be unified, bring it all together, get all the ducks in a row, and then we're ready to launch those eyeballs out there into fire and light and love and all the rest of it. But it's not going to be done by wishing it, reading about it, saying I want to. It won't happen. I have to start somewhere. And the where is always here, here, here in my thinking, my feeling, my doing, my being, my actions, my behavior, and how I show up in the world. No one else is my business. I am my business. And if I take care of this business and I take care of it well, I am doing what I came here to do. I am being who I came here to be. And so are you. And so are you. And this is a great day to look at the Beatitudes. This is a great week to study the Beatitudes. Go to the Beatitudes, the blessings. The Beatitude is a blessing. Go to them in Matthew. Read them and read them carefully. They're all about you. And the one that strikes me all the time is, blessed are the pure in spirit, for they shall see God. The pure in spirit, who are they? I've often wondered that and pondered that until I didn't have to wonder and ponder anymore. And I realized that the pure in spirit are those who are no longer subject to the tyranny of the ego, but who have harnessed the ego, who have managed to balance the ego, who have managed to integrate the ego with the soul, and are no longer subject to all of the anxiety and the fear that is a consequence of an ego that is left to run riot. So in the level of the egoic state of being, it's only there in that state that we experience separation, bias, prejudice, hatred, judgment, and all that goes with the negatives. It's only at the level of egoic thinking that that happens, which causes us to feel from egoic thinking rather than from truth thinking, rather from our higher conscious awareness, rather from the spirit. And how that happens is only one way. Again, you go back to that little thing called love. And that's not going to ever be understood by us until we are allowing ourselves to allow the heart center of ourselves to break open. And when that breaks open, I can tell you, it's a whole different world and a whole different way of being. Because then we have access to the gifts of the Spirit, the inner kingdom, and we know what it is to be one with the wisdom and the grace and the understanding and the realization of the Holy Spirit, the creative process in our lives. We know that life is on our side. We know that the universe supports us. We know that there is good in everything for those who have the eyes that can see, the ears that can hear, and the heart that is open and receptive to knowing. That's what we know. We know it. And even if it is only for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, we know it. Once we know it once, we'll know it again and again and again until we keep knowing it for longer, and the spaces in between will be shorter, and we'll be able to move in that incredible power and grace and wisdom and knowledge and all that smacks of the spirit of truth and the essence of being. It's the only way we are going to take care of our own needs and take care of the needs of the world right now. There is no other way. We have to remember that in the lives of all of the great ones, all the realizing ones, there was always that sense of warmth and welcome for all. There was always that opportunity for all to enter in. There was always that opportunity to be received without judgment, without judgment. We see it in the life of Jesus very much so. We see it. He mixed and mingled with every single type of person and people in society, from that what was considered to be the hand-me-downs of society to the hoi polloi of society. He moved through all of them, and he received all of them who received him. That's an important added online that we must remember, that Spirit receives all who receive Spirit. Not everybody was part of the company of Jesus. There was no place in the company of Jesus for the Pharisees. The only ones he had harsh words for, called them a brood of vipers, etc. And that was only because they didn't receive the gift that was offered. They didn't receive it. And so only those who do can enter in. Only those who do can enter in. So love unconditional and unconditional doesn't mean that, you know, you have to allow in dangerous and unrealized people to the point that they can be a danger to themselves or others. No, you don't. But what you do get to do is to know for them the highest and the most wondrous unfolding good. What you get to do is bless them and pray in that understanding that they are on their path and life is unfolding in them as it must and as it should. That's what you get to do. You don't see them as anyone less than the rest of us, but they're just somebody at that experience, in their experience at the moment. So it's a big thing, this L-O-V-E. A big, huge thing that you and I take on when we say we want to be the divine lovers on this plane, because that's what truth students are. That's all we are. And it takes a lover to understand diversity, and it takes a lover to be that kind of inclusive, receiving, aware presence as far as all of life is concerned. And you always think the good rather than the bad. You go to the good first, not the bad first. And everybody I know, somewhere in their lives will say, well, you know, I misjudged that person. At first, my first impression was blah, blah, blah. But then they turned out to be this lovely person. And then my first impression of him and her was wonderful. And then as soon as I got to know them, oh my God. And so it's to have that mind that stands still, observes and witnesses and waits and sees, but expects the best, has an expectancy of good and only good, because that's how we're changing ourselves. That's how we're changing all of life. We are one people, the people of God. We are one family, the family of God. We are one race, the human race. We are one, we are one, we are one. Now, we sing that and we're blue in the face. We are one. We are one, we are one, we are one. We sing it, sing it, sing it, sing it, sing it. But we have to get to the point where we live it, live it, live it, live it, live it, and be it, be it, be it, be it, be it. As much as I love the songs, and I do love the songs, and they do move us. But it's not enough. It's not enough. I have to be it in the most unlikely circumstances. I have to show up. Like the life that I am, the love that I am, to think. As I was sharing this morning, imagine what it could be like to think if only you had the eyes and I had the eyes to see the golden thread in all of life. If only I had the ears, if you only had the ears to hear the song of unity amongst us all. If only we had the heart that receives and welcomes all. If only we had the mind that understood the power for good in the universe, greater than we are, that we can get to use and use it well. If only goes on. And then I said to myself, but wait, hold the lights. We have the eyes, the ears, the heart, and the mind already. We've always had the ability to know from within ourselves, the soul of ourselves, the centered beingness of ourselves. We've always had that ability to move through our life from that sense of awareness, and not just simply from the world of the senses, the seven senses, the world of the senses that occupies the outer world, that judges everything in the outer world. You and I are not judges of anything. Judge not lest you be judged, we're told. We're just observers. We're just witnesses. We are just observers and witnesses to the truth that sets free. And it's none of our business to make up anybody else's mind with regard to what's going on in their mind or anything else. And none of us have the ability to say this, that, or the other about anyone else. We don't. We can observe. We can observe behaviors. We can observe language. We can observe all of that. And as a sense of that, we can get a realization of where maybe somebody might be in consciousness in that particular moment. But like everything else, consciousness changes. Consciousness changes. Everything changes on the material in the material world and on the material plane. Everything's changing all of the time. Nothing is permanent. Nothing. Everything that is formed material will change sooner or later and morph into something more, and that's the beauty. It morphs itself into something more. What was becomes something more in the change and in the transference. And that's a wonderful thing for you and for me to know. It's a great comfort to know that. And nothing is lost in the universe. Nothing is lost in the universe. Nothing is lost in creation. We lose nothing that is good and whole and wholesome. None of that is ever lost to us. And that's why we do talk about, well, I've lost my dear friend and so on. No, we haven't. Now, I'm not saying we don't experience a sense of deep loss. We do. But that's the loss of presence and so on and so forth. But we don't lose them. We don't lose that love. That love goes on and expands itself. That love is always ours, and a part of it is always with us. So nothing of good is ever lost. No love can be lost. It can be expanded and increased and multiplied, but never diminished and never lost if it is love. And I love that piece from Shakespeare. And love, if it altered, love never alters if it altercation finds. Love never alters if it altercation finds. Love is constant, love is steady, love is consistent, love is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Think of a mother's love, a father's love. Think of that. They love the black sheep of the family, I think, even more deeply. It doesn't change. It may appear to change, but it doesn't change. Deep down, it does not change. What's mine is mine, and it can never be taken from me. So my responsibility for a person, that remains. And so my responsibility to every person is to be loving, to be kind, to be giving. So think about diversity in your life, and please have nothing to do with conversations that go there into separation and into judgments and into the statements of superiority and inferiority, greater and lesser, and so on. How can we enter into those discussions and have anything to do with it? Or how can we be silent in the face of those discussions? Because silence is always interpreted as consent. As consent. That doesn't mean I just throw up my bandstand and jump up in it and start preaching. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means just being the peace, being the presence, and being the light, and saying, personally, I don't believe that. Personally, that's not been my experience. Personally, I know many people who do not carry that belief. And this conversation really makes me rather uncomfortable, because it's not in keeping with where I am in my life just now and in my journey to be the best person that I can be. So I'd rather not continue in this atmosphere. If you don't mind, I'm going to make my departure now. You've got to hit the nail on the head in the moment the nail appears. Otherwise, we cannot make a difference. And it's hard. It's so easy to walk away. It's so easy to be quiet. It's so easy to say nothing, be nothing, and just get out of Dodge. And this is not the time for that. These are not the times for that. We've got to be the truth. You hold the truth up to the lie. We hold the truth up to the lie always. We take the truth to the lie always. That's what we do as truth students, as evolving souls, as people committed and dedicated to being the best possible person that we can be. And everyone in this room, I believe, is endeavoring on this path. Otherwise, why would you give up your wonderful Sunday to be here, etc.? But it's good to be in the company of others who are like-minded. It really is good to be in the company of others who are like-minded. It's good to be in the company of people wherein you feel safe, you feel received, you feel welcomed, you feel you belong. And it is our endeavor always to give everybody a sense of belonging who belongs here, to receive everybody who's open and receptive to receiving the word, the love, the truth, and the light. That's what we're here for. That's what we signed up for. And so, my dear ones, here's the thing. There is no more for you to get. There's really nothing for you to do except one thing. And that is to take time out, give yourself the opportunity to be who you are, to enter into the inner sanctum, to go into the inner room. But remember, when you go in there, you can't take anything unlike what's in there in with you, or you don't get in. You cannot take grouses, and you cannot take pleadings, and you cannot take whatever, a honeydew list in there with you. Because it doesn't belong in there. In there, everything is whole, everything is complete. And if you want to enter in, you have to take off the shoes of all of that, leave them outside, and go in with the desire to honor, to praise, to love up on the love that loves you, to be in gratitude for the blissful awareness that I am in the divine and the divine is in me, and that's all I ever have to know, to mend, to fix, to heal, to release something, to draw in something good. That's all I need to know. I just have to remember, right where I am, God is, and where God is, all is well. Where God is, all is well. I am whole. I am perfect. I am complete in the spirit of the life that lives me. And I am so blessed and so grateful for the slightest moment when I can have this realization, and everything that is unlike the peace that passes understanding leaves me. Everything that is unlike love leaves me. Everything that is unlike the truth leaves me. And I am as I am created and made to be. Something amazingly magnificent and beautiful and stunning and awesome, uniquely and individualizedly made in the one image, in the one likeness of the Creator of my being, who knit me in my mother's womb, who drew my name on the palm of his hand, who called me good and very good, who called me by my name, and who assured me, I have loved you and will love you with an everlasting love. You are mine. This is what I can know. And if I can know that, why am I knowing all the rubbish that I allow my mind to entertain? Why am I allowing myself to berate myself, to think so little of myself, to bash myself, and refuse to identify the true essence of my being and get swallowed up in the emotionalism of neediness and all that goes with egoic thinking and egoic living? Why? When so much awaits me that is the opposite of that. It is your destiny, and it is my destiny, to have the eyes that see, to have the ears that hear, to have the heart that is open, to have the mind that flows with wisdom and grace. That's your destiny, and it's mine. Why not choose it now? Why wait for it to happen tomorrow or sometime in the future when it can never do that? It can only happen now. It's yours today. You are the life. You are the light. You are the love. You are the power. You are the presence of the Infinite One in form on this plane, right here, right now, and nothing you can do to deny that can change it, because that's what you are, that's who you are, and that's whose you are, and so it is.